All right, Bill, there's your 2-minute warning. What do you think?
Let's rock and roll.
All right, hey, I love that energy. Let's rock and roll. So, folks, welcome to today's WOW session on building a PBX with the CAP, the Customer Administration Portal. I think this is one of our more valuable WOW sessions where we really spend a lot of time deep diving into the tool and spending time with Bill demoing the features and functionalities, and he's going to talk with us today through some of our best practices. But more importantly, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning. As I said many times before, one of our core goals is to make sure all of our partners are equipped with as much knowledge and skill as possible to be as successful as possible. With that goal in mind today, Bill was going to share with you today ongoing training to help you win more, lose less, get your deals done faster, and provision your PBXs better. As always, we're informal. You know that we're family style, so let's be interactive today where we all learn from each other's questions and Bill's best practices, but really give you the chance to get questions asked directly of people who spend their life in the day or day in the life inside this tool. Now, to do that, *1 will bring you off of mute, or you can enter a comment or question in the chat box in the lower left-hand corner, and we will get to it during the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. Our speaker for today is Bill Ballvans. He is the Customer Operations Manager. He's responsible for customer training and transitioning to ongoing support for the channels after implementation. Now, what that means in English is that he spends more time in the Customer Administration Portal than anyone else here at ANPI. And as I said earlier, his lived experience, the day in the life of Bill Ballvans, is doing exactly what we're going to be doing today, which is spending a lot of time in the Customer Administration Portal. So where are we going today? What's our plan? What's our agenda? It's all about the CAP. It's all about provisioning the PBX in the CAP and an overview of the portal. And Q&A is encouraged throughout the presentation. I'll be monitoring the questions in the lower left-hand corner, and as always, feel free to interrupt us. I know Bill doesn't mind that as well, with a question and answer by coming off of mute. And then at the end of the call, we'll review or preview the resources that will be available. At the end of the call, where we hope to land is helping you develop more familiarity with the capabilities of the CAP, understanding the main primary customizable elements within the Customer Administration Portal, and a better understanding on how you can customize the PBX for your customers. I really think that's the biggest takeaway at the end, a better understanding of how you can customize your PBX for your clients and your customers. So with that, Bill, you should go ahead and come off mute. We're going to hand you control, or let you advance the slides if you will, and we'll hand it over to you, and you can kick us off and walk us through your demo and conversation around the Customer Administration Portal. Thank you for joining us, Bill.
All right, everyone. Thank you once again for coming to this webinar. We're going to look at the Customer Administration Portal. Some of you may have already come to this, but in the last 6 or 8 weeks, or however long it's been since we've done this particular lesson, the Customer Administration Portal has changed a bit. So we're going to look at some of those changes as well. So within that Customer Administration Portal, it does offer that simple, intuitive navigation with a self-service focus that allows your end administrators to handle a lot of pieces of their PBX on their own. It also allows you, when you are setting up the PBX, to enter a lot of that customization features on your own, to get that kind of out-of-the-box magic happening before you even activate phones in many cases. Now, anytime you transition to a new phone system, there is a level of frustration, and some of the best practices I'm going to teach you today will sort of serve to minimize some of that frustration. We'll talk about those when we get to them, but phone systems are one of those things in an office environment that you take for granted, and you usually have 1 or 2 people in that office that know the ancient phone system, and they're going to be diehards for the old system. So getting them acclimated, or getting something that mimics as close as possible what they used to have, will bring a better customer experience. Now, when should you customize the PBX? I generally think that you should do it between the time that you have ordered the equipment and the time that it arrives and you activate. This allows you to, so once it's provisioned, you have access to the CAP, And at that point, you can start putting in those customized elements. You can build hunt groups, you can build extensions, you can do all of those things equipment independent. So you don't have to have the phones activated yet. So you have that little bit of time there. Now within our customer administration portal, there are several tabs that you'll use more than others. We will discuss the services tab. We're going to review the other services briefly. We'll talk about call center. And we're going to do some in the administration tab as well. So those 4 key areas are what you will use a lot to customize. We can also do schedules, but I don't think we're going to talk about that quite today. Within the administration and access portion, this is where you will build your users. And as you all know, in our context, a user really helps by giving you that name that's attached to the phone. So when you have those users created and you have them assigned appropriately, when you activate that phone, that populates the correct user, it populates the correct extension when you customize that. And then it also builds your enterprise directory correctly. So it makes that a lot easier than it would be if you built it after you activate. To add users or to edit users, it's the same window as often as possible. In the customer administration portal, we use the exact same window to edit an item as we would to make a new one. So very simply, you have first name, last name, email address, and role are your key features. If you're setting up a call center, you'll also have call center licenses to put here, but I think we may need to have a call center conversation all on its own at some point, but we'll talk a little bit about it. After the administration tab, we can go to the services tab. Now this is going to allow you to set up many pieces of your call flow, and that's what I like to think of the services tab is the call flow tab. You have the managed phone system widget, which will let you do a lot of things for an individual seat. And again, this is equipment independent. When you've ordered it, you know that you're going to put a Premier seat on a Polycom 500, you're going to put this Premier seat on a 300. You know what type of equipment, but you don't have to know the particular MAC ID here. That's really all activation does, is assign a particular MAC ID to the service. But as long as you've provisioned it, or as long as you've ordered it correctly, that is ready to go with everything that a Polycom 500 would do right here. We can adjust the extensions, and I always use an example of Janice from accounting. If you have a company that's been in business for 30 years, and Janice in accounting has always had extension 41, there's absolutely no reason why she shouldn't have 41 in the new system. To me, that's a no-brainer. That's a very easy 5-second fix to put in a customized extension, and it makes that transition period a whole lot easier for them. You'll also assign users to your seats here. Once we have set them up in the administration tab, it's very easy to do this drop down and find your user and assign them to the seat. Yeah, do we have a question?
Bill, I got a question for you. When we do this on the road in the universities, I've got a question that typically comes up or sometimes comes up is something around power cycling. They would ask, do you have to power cycle these devices at any point after making these types of changes? Because it looks like you might. I'm getting the sense there might be a need to power cycle these.
There may be, but that's why I always recommend we do this before you even activate the phone, because that's going to build the configuration file, and it's going to be waiting until that phone gets activated and downloads its config based on its seat assignment. So this kind of minimizes the number of power cycles your phone is going to go through. And this really has a neat effect, because if you have the busy lamp fields and the corporate directories and everything already built, and you can activate that phone and you just plug it in for your customer and everything comes up. It looks really slick, and it actually saves you time in implementation to do this ahead of time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Within the managed phone system, we do have the ability to manage some settings in here. Now, many of them are going to be set from when you order the phone, like the 911 service address is based on the order. But some of these things, I just lost my PowerPoint, hold on a sec. So incoming calls will allow you to set up some call routing. This is where you're going to find simultaneous ring and sequential ring. If you have professional or premier seats, you'll be able to set those up right here. Any sort of call forwarding, like if they want a special call forward busy treatment, you would put that in incoming calls. Okay. Matt Johnson has a good question. He's run into instances in the past where certain extensions are off limits for use in the PBX. We do actually have a list. I'll get that out to you, Matt. There are certain extensions that are blocked for end user use because they're reserved. For example, no matter how important the CEO of a company thinks he is, he can't be extension 911. He just can't, because 911 is something that phone already has something it must do for that service.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Has that conversation actually taken place?
No, that's a conversation I've had in my brain about 100 times this year, but it hasn't actually occurred.
Okay.
But that's my example. But yeah, there are some. I think Shannon had a good list of them. We'll get that out to you, Matt. The nice thing about it, though, is even if you don't know them, it tells you right away. It won't let you put in one that you can't use. If you accidentally put in, 911, it'll stop you right there.
So you don't have to go back. So you don't have to go back and kind of reverse engineer what the problem is. You don't have to figure out what the problem is. It tells you right inside the tool if you were to try to enter 411, for example.
Yeah, it'll tell you that it's a reserved extension. Yep.
Hey, Bill, let me jump in here. When you're going over the incoming calls part, if I may, this to me is the most beneficial and probably the most powerful setting feature here, because it really gives the end user the luxury, the flexibility to manage how, when, and where they're reached, be it a desktop device, a mobile device, the sequence in which they ring. For me as an end user, because I'm an end user of this as well, when I'm managing my phone, this is where I spend most of my time, and I've found this to be the most powerful in terms of helping me work the way I want and where I want and how I want to work. I love this feature right here.
This is nice too, and there's a couple. I talked about at the professional seat you get the Find Me, Follow Me features, the sequential ring and the simultaneous ring. But even at a precision seat, you have the ability to do call forwarding always or call forwarding no answer. You do have some basic call forwarding functions available at your lower end seats. The biggest difference though, between a call forward no answer, which would ring your phone say 3 times and then go out to your cell phone, as opposed to a call forward or like a sequential call forward where it would ring your desk phone 3 times and then attempt your cell phone, is with the sequential dial, the PBX doesn't give up control of the call. Whereas in call forward no answer, it would. In short, that means that if you call forward no answer to a cell phone and you don't pick up, it's the cell phone's voicemail that answers that call. Whereas if you use sequential dialing and it goes to your cell phone and you don't pick up, it comes back to the ANPI voicemail. So that's an important thing to consider too, because then you don't have to maintain that professional sound on your personal cell phone voicemail, and it's all managed in one spot. All right, that was incoming calls. Outgoing calls is where you're going to find the caller ID information. And because of updates we made a few months ago, you're allowed to change the outbound caller ID to either the seat's own DID or any virtual number attached to a group service. So you can change that outbound caller ID to be the company main number or a hunt group for the sales department or a call center. You change that right here in outgoing calls.
Hey, Bill, let me press you for a little bit more on that. I think that's one of those things I learned later on listening to you and Shannon talk about this. Why? Why would a business want to change their outbound calling ID? You gave a couple of scenarios just now, the hunt group or sales team, but really what's the business case?
Let's imagine you have a customer service department of an auto parts store. And so that customer service department may be open 12 hours a day, but that particular customer service rep might only work 8 hours that day. So if they make a call to tell someone their part is in or they have a question about it, and they transmit their personal DID out there, and that customer doesn't call back until after they're off work, it goes to voicemail. Whereas if they had put a hunt group number for all the customer service reps, somebody would pick up that call. And because we live in an age of computers and centralized databases, generally you'll be able to pull up their records, and anyone who answers that phone in that department can offer assistance. You can also apply this to sales departments, where a lot of sales departments I've worked with, they favor hungry salespeople. So they will send that call to everybody, and the one who gets to their phone first actually gets that sales call. And then same as outgoing. If you haven't contacted somebody, it comes back into the shark pit, and anyone can get it for you. So there's a couple cases there where it may be more beneficial to give out a group number than an individual number.
So a shark pit, is that like a shark tank and a snake pit all in one?
Kind of, yes. It's a pit full of sharks that are hungry to pay their mortgage.
That's good. I like that. Hey, we've got a question here. If you got a quick second, and
the outbound caller ID be an
800
number.
Yeah.
I do believe it can. The outbound caller ID can be an 800 number. The only time you really run into issues with that is if you're calling another 800 number. I think sometimes there's some things we have to change on the back end, but it's not something that can't be corrected. That 800 number would have to point to a group service. It would have to be in that virtual toll-free numbers widget, which I think we're going to look at in a moment. But once it's assigned to a group service, that appears in the drop-down for the outbound caller ID. Good question, though.
Yeah, it's a good question. Because it seems like it's such an obvious question, but apparently the answer wasn't as obvious as I thought it was. I thought it would just be a simple yes, but apparently it's a nuanced yes.
It's a nuanced yes, only because the way our system, and it has to do with billing more than anything else. It's tracking which end of that call pays the toll. So if you have an 800 number calling another 800 number, sometimes they can dispute who actually deserves to pay the call. We can fix it. So, but outbound 800 numbers, not a problem, or not a big problem. Messaging. I'm sorry, I skipped over call control.
Yeah, you missed. Yeah, go back.
Is the place where you can set busy lamp fields, and you can set other parameters such as you can enable or disable call waiting or music on hold for an individual. The busy lamp field is a big deal because all of our Polycom phones offer, except for the conference phones, will offer busy lamp capability. They have extra line keys or line settings in the case of a 500 or 600 that allow you to put in other extensions inside the PBX. This is a wow feature. This is something that really impresses people because it's lights and colors and buttons. And people like lights and colors and buttons. And so in our case that we talked about before about having 5 customer service reps, you could have all of them with the busy lamp appearance of the other 4 on their phone. And at any moment they can look at their phone and tell how many people are busy. It gives them an indication, maybe now is not the best time to go on break, or Janet is free, let me call her and see if she knows something. And it gives you that ability to see their activity, kind of, and to call them with one button. And that's a good question. Susan asks, will D&D ever show on the BLF? Do Not Disturb is not set to appear on the busy lamp field. That's something I've kind of looked into passively. I'll take another look at that. That is a big ask. Because what the busy lamp field will show an active call And we think of that as busy, but it's really not. So it doesn't actually show the busy parameter. So I'm going to make myself a note. I might have some time today or tomorrow to do a little research into that. It's not something that I could tell you how to do right now, but I think, especially hearing from Matt and Susan, that's something that people are asking for. So let me just make a note.
Bill, I got that for you. It's in the chat. I'll take care of this for you.
Great.
I'll engage.
Awesome. Okay, so that's call control for us. One more time, having those busy lamp fields set up when you activate the phone makes it more wonderful when you actually turn it on that first time. You don't have to power cycle or do any of those other things. Messaging is where you will set up things like voicemail to email. That unified messaging is a big feature, and I talk to people all the time that really appreciate having the WAV file, the actual audio file of their voicemail sent to their email so that they can have that and listen to it remotely or save it in their Outlook or whatever they need to do. So that's where you'll set it up, is right in messaging there. The next section, we talked about this briefly, is virtual and toll-free numbers. These are DIDs that don't have a seat that they point to inherently. So you assign an extension for them to point to. Anytime you have one of these that points to a group service, you can have the outbound caller ID of a seat directed to that or as that number. So this is where you'll find that call flow. Yes?
Hey, Bill, before you get too far away from the settings, go back one slide if you would.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, so we've spent about 20 minutes, Bill, going through the managing settings interface. A couple questions for you. Who has the ability to do this, to use these, to make these changes?
The administrator has the ability to make all changes. Mm-hmm. An end user has the ability to make most changes to any seat assigned to them.
So if I'm going to, okay, good.
There are some things they can't change.
Good. So that was like part one. So part two of the question is, if I'm an administrator or an end user, how much time or how frequently will I be managing this? And the reason I say that is because there's a lot here. You just spent 20 minutes going over it. Am I going to spend a lot of time in here jimmying with these features?
No. About the only thing that's going to be frequent is the incoming calls, what you talked about with call forwarding. Also, incoming calls can be handled from the phone itself. So, or the call forwarding can be done from the phone itself. I like to think of a lot of the customer administration portal as a fire and forget type of operation. You'll set it up, but unless something changes, you're not going to come in here that frequently. Because you won't come in here that frequently, we do have the context-sensitive help files attached to the little question mark in the corner of most of our widgets, which help remind you what the different things do. So Susan brings up a very good point. End users cannot manipulate their busy lamp field. That is one thing I was about to mention. That's one of the big things that end users can't do is BLF. They also can't turn on or off their international dialing capabilities, for instance. There's a couple things in there that they can see, but they can't actually interact with. Thank you for bringing that up, Susan.
All right, sorry about that interruption on my part, Bill. I wanted to kind of ease that transition out of settings because I was left going, man, that's a lot there. And now I know you wanted to move into, go back to the main page and look at those toll-free numbers. That's where you were.
Virtual and toll-free numbers. This is the top level of call flow. These are direct inward dialing numbers that point to something within your PBX. These are very frequently the numbers published for the business or the ones that customers have one way or another. Rather than an individual DID, they more frequently have a company number that then may point to an auto attendant or a hunt group. These are very easy. You just hit edit and assign it to the service. So I don't think that's very mysterious. Music on hold is another customizable bit. Music on hold is based per location. So if you have multiple locations within that PBX, Hold on one sec. Scott asks, only one virtual number can be pointed to a group feature without an additional charge. Right. No, a virtual number can be pointed to, a true virtual number can be pointed to any extension within the PBX. It doesn't check to see if other numbers are pointed there as well. So you can have multiple phone numbers pointing to the same hunt group or the same auto attendant or even the same receptionist. We run into that a lot with people who had old key systems and they've got 5 numbers that they love even though only one actually had anyone call it. Okay, Matt's asking a different question. One free number, additional numbers do incur a monthly cost. Okay, I misunderstood. You start with one company main number. Each PBX has one, what we call a company main number, which is like a virtual number in that it can point to an extension within the PBX. It is free, it comes with the PBX, but it is limited to only point to a group service. Beyond that, these additional toll-free numbers can point to any extension. So you're absolutely right, Susan. The company main number has to point to a hunt group, auto attendant, or call center. It has to go to a group service, whereas the true virtual numbers, the ones that incur a monthly fee, can point to any extension. Does that answer your question, Scott? All right. Music on hold. Back to this real quick. You can upload a custom message to put to the system. There is basic music on hold built into it that satisfies most people's needs. But if they wanted to use this as a marketing tool to upload a commercial or some sort of message that plays while their customer's on hold, this is where you would do it.
Hey, Bill, let me jump in here. This is where, when we take this on the road, for whatever reason, people get really fixated on this section, this feature. So, file format?
File format is a WAV file. It's 8,000 kilohertz. It's EULA encoded, and although it doesn't say it in the WAV guide, it's actually a mono file because your phone only has one earpiece. All audio files within our system are the exact same format. So whether it's one...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, keep going. You're on a roll.
So whether it's a file that is used for music on hold or one that's a message for an auto attendant or a voicemail to email, it's all the same format. So I have even advised people that if they need to make a quick change to an auto attendant greeting, for instance, and they have a voicemail to email set up, they can leave themselves a voicemail that then becomes an email, and that's already encoded with the proper file type because all the file types are the same.
Does it restart if I come off hold and go back on hold?
I believe, I don't have a good answer for that.
Oh, sorry, I really didn't mean it. My bad, I didn't mean to trip you up with that one. So
it's a good question. It does, it restarts.
It restarts. It doesn't, if you put somebody on hold and you're having some marketing message and you stop at the word "and," when you put them on hold again, it's not going to pick up where "and" stopped. So
I was thinking
over.
that, but I hadn't actually tested it myself.
Look at Melissa Johnston, hosted UC sales manager, coming in from left field with the save, or maybe right field with the save. All right, hey, anytime you want to pop in, feel free to do so. One more thing, comfort messaging. Does this have anything included in terms of a comfort message? Like you've been on hold for.
Comfort messages are inherent to call centers. They're the ones that really use that, and a call center has a much more robust audio file handling system. So it uses the same format, but it has more options for you. So sometime we'll have to do a lesson on call centers and go into that a little more, but for basic music on hold, there is not a comfort message. It just plays the same message again and again.
Hey, let me run through the little dialogue that's in the left-hand corner. I think this is a really solid example of learning from each other's best practices. Scott, can the volume of the music be adjusted? Yeah, some of the people are saying it's too loud, or the WAV file is really loud. Matt Johnston's recommendation is to adjust the volume in Audacity and load the new file with a lower volume. Okay, got that. we've been using the BroadSoft Recorder app, and he says it's a great app for a recording on the fly. So a couple questions for you, Bill, or maybe Melissa, or anybody really. These apps they're talking about, Audacity, BroadSoft, where does one locate those?
You will locate them directly from the customer administration portal. If you see where we have the music on hold message and it says for file specifications, click here. If you click this, it will open up a wave audio guide that will not only tell you the specifications, but it will give you links to certain applications like the BroadSoft Recorder and even Audacity. Audacity is a free program for, I think it's for Mac and Windows, but I use it on Windows. That is a sound manipulation program. You can adjust volumes, you can remove noise. There's a lot of neat things. It does take a little bit of getting used to if you're not an audio nerd like I am, but it's available to you and it's free. So the click here link from the music on hold message will take you right there. Actually, any place where you would upload an audio file has the same link. So anywhere where you need to put an audio file, it'll link you to the Wave Audio Guide, which will show you where to get those applications.
So just to repeat what we just said, the apps that Scott and Matt are talking about are linked to or accessed via the little red box and the red dot you were just showing us inside the Music on Hold widget.
Yes, you can get to them from that link that says click here.
And, you know, an interesting sidebar on that, Bill, just to kind of validate this for you. I don't know if you have these kind of insights, but Jan Ritter, our Director of Digital Marketing, runs stats on all of our website traffic. The number 2 page that is landed upon within our domain is actually the page that hosts all the software for the Music on Hold. It gets like 1,000 visits a month. So a lot of people are using this feature and doing exactly what you're walking through. So it's not just a throwaway conversation. It's actually the second, as I said, the second most popular site or location within our domain.
She should filter out my IP address because I show it all the time.
Okay, it's probably 900 of them that are you then.
Yeah,
thanks for ruining it.
90 of them on to me, but whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very invaluable to have that information over there.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Oh, before I move on, one of the best, I just have a quick testimonial, one of the best Music on Hold messages I have observed is there's a motorcycle repair shop, custom motorcycles, and he had, as soon as he got voicemail to email, he had some of his customers call in and leave testimonials, thanks Terry for doing this or whatever. He then took those audio files from his email and used Audacity and stitched them together to make his Music on Hold. So when he has to put people on hold to check their order, they get to listen to other people who have already been happy with what he's done. Really innovative way to do it. A nice message for Music on Hold.
That's brilliant.
All right. Hunt groups and auto attendants are ways to direct the calls to specific users. So starting with the virtual numbers, we start to narrow down to find someone to answer the question that caller wants. We talked a little bit about hunt groups, but let's look at auto attendants first. An auto attendant has a audio file that plays to hopefully direct the caller to particular activities that they can do by pressing key presses. I know we have a lot of demos for how to set up auto attendants and how to do all this stuff, but they're not really effective unless you have some way to direct traffic to them. I've been doing this for about 1.5 years now here at ANPI, and I have noticed that fashion has changed. And when I first started in implementation, auto attendants were a thing that almost everyone did a lot. And anymore, it's become more and more fashionable to go to a live operator first and use an auto attendant as that backup, that rollover in case everyone on the hunt group is busy. So that's just a little contextual note there. Auto attendants are still being used, but a lot of times that recorded voice is not the first thing that callers want to hear. Within the hunt group, now this is one that's changed recently too, where we've added more options, not only just scheduling, but we've added ability to do call waiting on the hunt group, deliver the caller ID information through the hunt group there, and then we have a not reachable option for the hunt group as well. So that's why I like to have this new screenshot here. With that hunt group, you can have multiple people, your accounting department, for instance, and through many different hunting policies, they can attempt to find somebody to take that call. So hunt groups are a pretty standard thing. They've been part of telephony for a while, but ours are pretty easy to set up and pretty easy to change on the fly. The nice new addition here, though, is that not reachable option. So you can put a not reachable number on a hunt group rather than just on a seat like before. So not reachable, of course, as a reminder, occurs if our system cannot find the devices it's trying to send a call to. So there could be a power outage, there could be an internet outage on location. This allows them to then send it to another location or a cell phone or something off premises to continue business, even if the internet's out for a while because Comcast is who they are. When we look at the other, when will we be able to enter the voicemail extension number of the user for mailbox delivery? Are you talking about auto attendant, Susan? You can do that now. If you look in the new auto attendant, in the auto attendant, you can direct to voicemail or send a voicemail box like before, and then there's a specific voicemail option.
Bill, I can tell what you're trying to do. You're trying to answer questions and read questions at the same time. So let me help you out. Susan, did that answer your question about voicemail extension number? Cool. All right. No, hey, that's fine. So, Bill, Matt's got a question or a comment or a suggestion for you. If you could, talk a little bit about call waiting on the hunt group and how many calls the hunt group can receive simultaneously.
That's a really good technical question, Matt. And then, yeah, the phones are set up to handle 3 simultaneous calls at a time. I think your math takes an exponential jump there, though. 4 phones in the hunt group that can take 12 concurrent calls. I think 4 phones would take 12 concurrent calls total. So I haven't seen anything that limits the I haven't seen anything that limits the number of calls there other than what each device can handle, or each device is set up to handle. 12 total calls. So I'm getting a confirmation from Gary on that. So does that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah, just while Matt determines whether that answers his question. Go ahead.
Hey, Bill, it's Matt. Hey, I'm just curious, like, for example, with the Polycom 600 phone, it actually boasts that it can take 16 concurrent calls, or maybe even more, if I'm correct in remembering. So if that's, let's say we had 4 of those in a hunt group, I mean, you do the math, 16 times 4, that's how many concurrent calls you should be able to take, correct?
Yes, if we directed that many to them. I think, and I'm not the engineer type to speak 100% on this, but I think that the Broadsoft switch that we use puts a trunk on that well before 12.
Okay.
If there's somebody on here who's a little more technically minded, okay, thank you. I think we shunted at 3 just because the human brain has trouble wrapping their minds around more than 3 calls at a time anyway, and there's bandwidth concerns. So
what happens after 3 calls then? Are they going to get a
busy comes to busy treatment?
Okay.
Yeah, if you have a particular case that they need to be able to do more than that, let us know on a case-by-case basis. But in the people I talk to, 3 is at least adequate.
Yeah. So the key, I think, and this is Melissa again, I think the key to what Bill is saying about it is it's a busy treatment. So if you have, like as an end user, my busy treatment is that 4th call would go to voicemail. So it's not that they're going to get a busy signal, that fast busy sound, but whatever you have set up for when all calls, when all lines are busy, what happens next, that's what that caller is going to experience. So if the receptionist is busy and they have it forward to a hunt group, it'll go to a hunt group, or the receptionist is busy and it goes to an auto attendant, it'll go to the auto attendant.
Yeah, it's a busy treatment, whatever that happens to be for that particular product. Okay? And then Gary chimes in that if the seat has a receptionist console, that seat can take up to the phone's limits in terms of calls. The receptionist console absolutely opens up the full capability of the device and lets you manage that full number. And receptionist console is it's worthy of its own wow session, actually. All right. Any other questions on the services tab? I've kind of jumped past that. So I think I'll go on to other services briefly. Other services where you will set up the hosted fax and the call recording. I know we had some training on this just the first part of September because this changed over Labor Day. It was such a big change we needed to take the day off. And but this is where you will set up those call recording configurations or the hosted fax configurations right here. I'll touch. Susan, the personal hosted fax user, we still don't have a way to change that to a different user. I have simulated a user change before by going into the administration tab and actually changing the information about the user, which isn't what you're asking for, but there still is not a way to redirect the personal hosted fax product to another user. Within the call center tab, we have the ability to set up call center queues. We also have your statistics, which aren't used when you're setting things up. But you can set up your call center queues here, which is your different call types. You can set up your basic call center settings from the label at the top with those gears. And you can have those all set up before you even start to add users to your system. So these are all ways to kind of pre-build that PBX before you have to activate it, before you set up the system. We had some great questions. Are there any others that are coming to mind right now?
Yeah, Bill, take a quick break. I think this is, I don't think it was, I think it is. It is the most interactive session we've had probably this year in quite a while, so I do really appreciate the questions you've been asking throughout the session. And as Bill just noted, are there any other kind of clearinghouse type questions or comments that we need to touch off or clear off on before we head toward the exit ramp?
This is Matt again. I do have one question about, and this may pertain to more of a branded portal. I don't know if AMPI's portal does the same thing, but we've noticed there is when you're trying to make a change to like the incoming call or outgoing call preferences for an individual user, if that user has a custom no answer greeting loaded, it tries to remove that file, and if you try to change or save any of the features in the outgoing or ingoing call preferences, it wants you to re-record that greeting every time. Bill, are you aware of this?
I've heard this in the past. I thought that we had that fixed, but I'll take it back to development. If you're experienced, I'll test it. It may still be broken. I don't doubt you, Matt. But we did have it fixed for a little while there, and I don't know why it's not working right again. But I'll take a look and see if that's just on branded caps or also AMPI caps, and see what we have to do to correct that. So,
thank you.
We've got, Bill, got a couple questions that came in at the end, one of them from Golden West. Is there a way to have more than one appearance of my own extension?
That's something I'm going to have to ask a little follow-up question. Do you want your extension to be present on more than one seat? Is that what you're asking? Or do you want other seats able to see your extension?
Star 1 will bring you off mute if you want, or use a text box.
No, I'm thinking of an extra button on my phone that shows a second appearance of my own extension.
The easy answer is no, but the follow-up answer is, what are you trying to do? Maybe there's a way to make that work.
Well, just it's more for, I mean, I understand I can answer multiple calls. It's just more for because as a lot of you guys know, we're an older PBX vendor, and we've been, had phones with multiple appearances of our own extension for a long time, right? So when I'm on a call, a second call comes in, on my current phone system, I can just hit that second appearance and pick that call up. And I understand I can do it on this, but it's just not as visually as easy to manage. How about that? I know I can put a shared appearance of somebody else's extension, but I was just thinking of a second appearance of my own extension just to make it easier to pop back and forth between two calls.
Like I said, the quick answer is no, but there may be a custom tag that can be put in place for that. It's just not something that's typically offered, and it's not something available through the portal. So. Okay,
and just kind of a follow-up, because PBXs typically have a lot of buttons to do a lot of different things, right? And with using the meta switch the way it is now, we don't have all those buttons. And one of those buttons that I'm getting requests from my customers is the ability to have a park and retrieve button. And what this does basically is it kind of gives us the ability to simulate a line on hold, right? I'm going into a lot of very small customers, and they have a key system right now, and when they put line 1 on hold, it blinks on every phone on the system. Somebody just has to go over and hit the button, telling them that they have to hit park and then park it to an extension, and then they have to let the person picking it up know that they have to dial star 88 in the extension that it's parked at to pick it up. A park retrieve button would be phenomenal, and if it could be something that could appear on all phones, it would be pretty awesome.
Hey Don.
People from these key systems.
Hey Don, this is Matt. Hey, I've actually got there's a solution for your customers. You can do that with a shared line appearance. It will cost more, but if your customers are demanding that you basically redesign a hosted system to work like a key system, I can show you a way to do that.
That'd be fantastic.
Just quick for your knowledge, what it entails is, for example, if they're used to having 4 lines that they can resume and hold calls on across the office, basically you order 4 additional seats in addition to what they're paying now, and you basically add those seats, name them line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. You add those seats to the phone as a shared line appearance. When calls come in, they ring in on those seats in the hunt group, and when you press hold, it'll hold it to that line, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And then everyone who has that shared line appearance will see it on hold.
Absolutely.
Interesting workaround, albeit a little expensive on a monthly reoccurring charge for customers. So
it would be, but it might be a good way to get your customers positioned to take the hosted solution and learn to use it as it's intended. That's what we're finding.
Yep, I get it.
Hey guys, this is Shannon Brenner. I just want to reiterate too, if you have any special requests or odd things you would like to see the system do, please route that through your UC sales manager engineering team involved, and they'll be able to kind of gauge that with you and work with you on that as well. Thanks.
We have a lot of asks for the park retrieve button, so that's something to take forward. I think we have 100% asking for that, it seems like.
Yeah, the engineering team they have that on their agenda to look at with the engineering team as well. So yeah, there may already be some answers that they can provide, but that's something we can route through them as part of their agenda.
All right, Bill, I got to tell you, there's great interaction from everybody, and since we're quickly cruising toward the top of the hour, let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. I'm really confident in where we landed today in terms of our outcomes, that we've got a better familiarity of the capabilities, what those customizable elements are, and really how you can customize the PBX for your own customer. We've even had conversations with Matt and Scott talking about how they do that with their customers right now. It's fantastic. Bill, since you still have control, would you advance me a couple more times? Go ahead. We're good here. So at the end of today's call, we'll follow up with an email with a recording as well as some of the resources, including the recording, the PowerPoint, and there's a couple questions that I've taken down for you, Bill, to see if you can get some solutions for me at the end of the call. And then good. And then at the and then we have just actually wrapped up our 4th consecutive quarter of WOW sessions, and we're going to evaluate where we want to take it in Q4. I know we've kind of bled into Q4 a little bit already, but we are putting together our curriculum and our training timeline for the Q4 series of WOW sessions. So stay tuned for that. We're not going to cancel them, but we want to make sure that we're giving you the best and the brightest of all the content that we have. So again, Bill, thank you so much for calling in and helping out today. Matt, Mario, Susan, Don, Scott, excellent dialogue. I really appreciate the comments and the involvement and the engagement from everybody else. So before we depart, Bill, any concluding thoughts or any final thoughts or comments from you?
Man, you ask me that every time, and I never have a good answer. Have a great time, guys. That's my concluding thought.
Man, you're tapped out. You've been on the hot seat all morning, so I get it. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for calling in this morning, and see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.